This gathering in Chicago reflects more than a memorial. It represents the legacy of one of the most influential civil rights leaders in modern American history. Reverend Jesse Jackson spent decades at the center of social justice movements, presidential politics, and grassroots activism. As leaders and community members reflect on his impact, the speeches we're about to hear reveal not only personal memories, but also the broader political and moral influence he had on generations of organizers, politicians, and citizens across the United States.
Thank you for that introduction, and good morning, everyone. It is truly my honor to be here today as mayor of the city of Chicago to celebrate a man who was my dear friend, a mentor, and a source of inspiration, Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson Sr. And thank you to Mother Jackson, the entire Jackson family, for the grace and the courage that you all exude. And Mother Jackson, we don't mourn and grieve as the world because we are not ignorant to what has happened. And you will see him again. And that's not a promise from a politician, but from the Word. And he said, if it weren't true, I would not have told you so. Now, to the Jackson family, I'm not trying to start any trouble, but I looked at the program and I didn't see any West Side representation. I didn't see nobody from the Church of God in Christ on the program. So I know I represent the city of Chicago, but God bless you, Bishop Shears. I guess they wanted us to get out on time, so they. But on behalf of my wife and my entire family, I say thank you for the care that you have shown us. From one first family to another, we love you. By evidence in this audience, the city of Chicago, the state of Illinois, and the world, the country, agrees. One quick story. Reverend Jackson may have been the most competitive individual that I've ever met. So a few years ago, we were wrapping up a meeting on the west side of Chicago at Reverend Johnny Miller's church. And Zeke, we started talking about football. And at the time, Lamar Jackson was on his way to becoming the MVP of the National Football League. And I looked at Reverend and I said, now there's a Jackson that's really making a name for himself. And you know, Reverend did not like that. And he looked at me and he said, you know, I played that position. And he said, you know, I was better than Lamar Jackson. Zeke, true story. He said, he might be taller, faster, and stronger, but I'm better than him. And I said, Reverend, well, that doesn't leave too many more categories to determine greatness. And I said, in all seriousness, what makes you better? He said, because of my instincts. See, in sports, you hear about how athletes have a good feel for the game. Something innate that can't be coached, that allows them to read the field and make split-second decisions that ultimately position their team to win. The Reverend will be remembered certainly as an incredible oratory champion, but to the people in Chicago, we knew him as a brilliant strategist, a master negotiator, an organizing savant. His instincts. See, he didn't shy away from the painful realities of racism and hatred, but he had a God-given ability to bring people in, to encourage them in, and to enlist them into the fight of our collective liberation. It was his instincts that understood.
At this point in the speech, the mayor highlights something historically significant. Reverend Jesse Jackson's presidential campaigns in 1984 and 1988. Those campaigns were groundbreaking, helping expand voter participation and bringing issues like economic justice and racial inequality into the national political conversation. While Jackson never secured the Democratic nomination, his campaigns helped reshape coalition politics in America, most notably through the concept of the Rainbow Coalition, which aimed to unite diverse communities around shared economic and social goals. But moments like these also invite reflection. How much of today's political landscape still reflects the coalition-building Jackson advocated decades ago? And in an era of increasingly polarized politics, is that kind of broad alliance still possible?
Understood that labor and faith were one and the same, as Dr. King prophesied. It was his instincts to stand up against school closures and the shuttering of mental health clinics. It was his instincts that led protests down Michigan Avenue when a boy's life was taken by a police officer and then government decided to cover it up. It was his instincts. It was his instincts to run in '84 and '88, but not in '92, to make way for somebody in the deep South and a brother on the South Side to become president of these United States. It was his instincts. See, I had the privilege to accompany Reverend to Selma one year, and while we were there, he recounted the days and weeks that were spent organizing to get folks to walk with them across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And he said, now that history has proven us to be right, he said that everybody and their mama was on that bridge. But he knew the struggle from going town to town, and he was calling people out of isolation and into community, understanding that the bridge is a symbol that burdens all of us. It's what connected us. It's what was waiting for us on the other side. He had a feel. His instincts understood that that bridge was a representation of the cross. See, it was the Bull Connors of the world and state-sanctioned violence that they unleashed on our people. It was a cross brought to bear by the most egregious alignment that can materialize in a fight against inequality. Reverend Jackson's instincts understood the words of James Baldwin, who said that ignorance and power allied is the most ferocious enemy of justice. But his instincts understood that if there's a cross to bear, we need a symbol of a promise. And that's when he formed the Rainbow Coalition that said that whosoever will, let them come. It would be necessary for the movement to build the future that he saw, where America could finally live up to her ideals. And when I think of Selma and that storied march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, I know that Reverend Jackson knew exactly how much wickedness and hatred waited for them on that bridge. Beaten, abused, intimidated, they marched anyway. They bore the cross because they understood that on the other side of the bridge, his instinct said there's a win. And see, in America, we find ourselves at a bridge, and we are confronted in this moment. And that bridge is now described as borders, where borders get to determine how human dignity is determined by which side of the border you live on. He understood the bridge. And so now we are in the midst of a choice to choose hope over despair, light over darkness, love over hate, because he knew there was too much to gain on the other side of the bridge. Bishop shared, I think I feel my help coming. Because on the other side of the bridge, Rodney, housing as a human right. On the other side of the bridge, health care for all. On the other side of the bridge, safe and affordable cities, accessible transportation, finally fully funding our public education system. It is time to cross the bridge, you all, to build an economy that works for all. Black, brown, white, Asian, young, old. It is time for the ultra-rich to pay their fair share in taxes on the other side of the bridge. Reverend, you cross your bridge. We know our assignment. We see you on the other side. God bless you.
Speeches like this are not only tributes, they are reminders of how individuals can shape the direction of social and political movements. Reverend Jesse Jackson's influence extended from civil rights marches to presidential campaigns and grassroots community organizing. His work helped redefine how coalition politics, activism, and faith communities intersect in American public life. At the same time, moments like these encourage deeper reflection about the challenges that remain, from economic inequality to political polarization. What do you think about the legacy described here? Do you believe figures like Reverend Jackson fundamentally changed American politics? Or is there still more unfinished work ahead? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you appreciate thoughtful, fact-based breakdowns of important political moments, don't forget to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe for more in-depth analysis.